Hey guys, when it comes to operations, surely you're taking advantage of one of the biggest, most fundamental part of operations, right? Hey guys, George at SoundTraxx here, and this week we're going to go back into our Operations 101 series, and in this particular episode we're going to talk about whistle signals. Now, whistle signals are a way that the engineer communicates with the ground crew or the railroad crew as they're operating their train. These are successions of long and short blasts of the whistle or the horn so that way everybody kind of knows what's going on. Now, you'll have to forgive me for just a moment in this particular episode. I was just in last week at the Missouri Pacific Historical Society, and I had given a presentation there, and I brought the steam locomotive with me that I have with Blue Nami installed, and I kind of left it at home when I needed to shoot this video for this week's episode. So we're going to do everything we can here with a diesel. But when we talk about whistle signals, it doesn't mean that it's exclusive to steam locomotives. Diesel locomotives use these whistle signals also, especially during the transition era. So with the advent of radio and radio communications, whistle signals aren't used quite as much as they once were. However, they are still actually used many, many times. As a matter of fact, anytime you've been rail fanning near a grade crossing, you're still hearing whistle signals. Now, first off, let's talk about how they're used. Now, as I mentioned, these are long and short successions of the whistle in various codes to kind of indicate what's actually happening and what's going on. Now, as I mentioned, a lot of this was developed early on during the steam days when there was no whistle, so we had to tell everybody what was going on. Now, as diesel slowly took over, there were still a lot of steam locomotives, and radio was really still in its infancy. Carrying around a big, heavy box for radio communication on the ground wasn't necessarily the most common practice. But as radios got smaller and people could put them on their belt, then it became a lot more common. You can say things like "come to me" or "go away." There's also implementation of hand signals, but we'll talk about that in a separate episode. Now, when we're talking about whistle signals, some of the most common whistle signals, as I mentioned, you hear them every day today. The most common one is the grade crossing, and this is a long, long, short, long. Now, you can do this manually. Now, here on my Blue Nami, I'm going to go ahead and use the Blue Nami app, so we're going to do a long air horn. Short. And then you would typically hold the last blast until you crossed the crossing or entered the roadway. Now, with this, you can do this manually as I just did, or with function 9 here, as labeled on our screen behind me, you can actually see there's a grade crossing. So when I actually push this, it will automatically do the grade crossing sequence. Now, one of the advantages of the Blue Nami here, now you can do this with your Tsunami 2 or your Eco Nami, but one of the advantages here is that we can actually make the grade crossing sound momentary. Now, the way we've designed this is the grade crossing happens on what's called leading edge, which means when the function is turned on, which means you have to turn it off to then turn it back on again. And the reason we did that is because if you're running along and you happen to lose power, now there's a mismatch between your DCC system and the commands in your decoder. And so therefore we made it to where it only happens on leading edge. But with the Blue Nami, we can make these momentary. So as I see here in the screen, I uncheck that box. Now the grade crossing is momentary. So now when I press the button, you can see that it automatically goes back ready to go for the next press. But this is just one of the many whistle signals that the railroads used over the years. One of the more common ones is that we're about to move in the forward direction, which is 2 blasts of the air horn. So we're going to go ahead and do that. Now that tells everybody around that my locomotive is about to move forward. Now, with a steam locomotive, it was pretty evident which side is forward, as it is with these hood units that you can see the cab is on the one end. But as our hood units became a lot different over the years, there's also a lot of different locomotives that are out there. The front end wasn't always as obvious, for example, in a 44-tonner. And so as you can see in these photos, you can actually see that the front is usually designated on your diesels, so that way, if you do hear the 2 blasts of the air horn, it lets everybody know it's moving forward. Now you know which way the locomotive is actually going to be moving. Now, when we start moving in the reverse direction, you're actually going to hear 3 short blasts. And that tells everybody that we're about to start moving in the reverse direction. Now, there's a full list of these listed on our website that you can access that include things like telling the flagman to get ready to protect the rear of the train or get ready to protect the front of the train for any oncoming traffic, if you're about to make a station stop or a water stop, things like that. There's also signals to recall the flagman. So when you add these signals into your railroad operations, now you're adding an extra element of one of the more fun things, which is actually blowing the air horn or blowing the whistle on our locomotives. So now we've actually implemented the use of these to more realistically recreate the work that the railroads are actually doing. Now, the last thing I'll say about whistle signals is there is the ability to actually go in and set these whistle signals to happen automatically. That means you can automatically trigger a whistle signal when you start moving in the forward direction or start moving in the reverse direction or come to a stop. Now, this is CVs 1.407, 1.408, and 1.409. So we've done automatic sounds before, but I'll mention them here. So if you don't want to be pushing a whole bunch of buttons, you can actually trigger those to happen automatically using those CVs. So be sure to check that out. So by adding all of this in, you can really bring your railroad to life. You're more realistically making the locomotives do what they want to do. But the other side of this is if you implement whistle signals, one of the biggest challenges of model railroading is our layouts are always too small. Now our layout doesn't quite seem as small because we're implementing a lot more work that the railroad engineers are doing. So guys, that's it. Like I said, we'll talk about hand signals in a future operation. So I hope this was helpful for you. If you guys have any questions, feel free to reach us at support@soundtraxx.com. And be sure also to like and subscribe to our channel. It helps us get the information out to you guys and also helps grow our channel and the reach with a lot of great information like this to help you enjoy your model railroading just a little bit more. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.